right. Well, hello, and welcome everyone to our BG5 Live. Great to have all of you here. Today is June 30th, the last day of June, 2020. This is episode number 59, and we're going to take a look at two traits today. It actually changes throughout our BG5 lives, so we're going to do both. So we're going to take a look both at trait 52, which is stillness, and trait number 39, which is about obstruction and provoking. So we're going to take a look at stillness leading to provocation. So that's what we're going to take a look at today. Now, before we jump in and get started, let's say hello to our panel. So hello, and welcome. Lavina is going to step away for a little bit, so she may be in and out with BG5 Live, but we do have Rob joining us, and we're really excited to have Rob join us again. So welcome, Rob.
Thank you very much for inviting me back.
Woohoo! Great to have you. And Chris.
Hey everybody, welcome. I'm so excited. We're really fun. We're going to miss Lavina, but we have got an awesome co-host coming in here too. Rob, welcome. Super happy.
Thank you, Chris. That's very kind.
Yeah. Yes, awesome. And Natalie.
Yeah, I'm also very pleased to have Rob with us to have some male energy in this conversation because exactly. Very self-empowered individual, very good. So we're going to have loads of fun, and yes, we will miss Lavina's brilliant, keynoting. But it's very healthy for her to have a little, to recuperate her health and her energy. So that's actually why, it was just too much to do everything.
Yes.
So.
Exactly. Well, great. And I'm Karen Sherwood. And again, welcome to our BG5 Live. So welcome for all of you who are here live in our Zoom room, and welcome all of you that are here via Facebook, and welcome all of you that are listening via the recording on YouTube as well. So it's really great to have you all here. So let's dive into stillness leading to provocation. What is that all about? So we are continuing our journey through form, and I thought this was kind of interesting. I'm going to talk a bit more about this. Last week, we took a look at diversity. We took a look at the love of humanity, right? It's an identity and direction. This is still part of the background environment that we are a part of. So even though the core essence has changed, this is still affecting us, this love of humanity. Today, we're going to actually take a look at two traits. We're going to take a look at stillness in the 52, which it is where it is currently. And actually, as we go through our BG5 Live is actually when the switch happens. And so we're going to be moving into obstruction in 39. And then we're going to take a look at beginnings. And then as we continue forward, just to kind of take a look at where we're going, you can see it then will move into the last four of the communication and action traits, taking a look at detail, stories, influence, and retreat. But today what we're going to focus on is we're going to focus on both stillness and obstruction. And it's perfect because it was just Rob's birthday, so happy birthday, Rob. So stillness is part of his core essence, his life work. And Natalie's birthday is coming up here shortly. And her birthday is in obstruction, in provoking. So we have a great representation here as well. I love it.
And I love that you're like, her birthday's in obstruction. That just doesn't say, it's, you won't have trouble with your birth. Like, it just feels like should be interesting.
I'll share a little bit more about how that works
good.
a little later.
Yes. Yeah. You know, and yeah, we'll talk more about that as well. Exactly. And here's another thing that I want you to keep in mind. It's very interesting where we are now because all of these traits are having an effect on us. And if we take a look at 39 is also in communication currently as well. So there may be some provoking conversations as well. So we're going to take a look at that. So it's very interesting. It's going to be moving back and forth between the 52 and the 39 as far as communication goes throughout the next month. So what I wanted to do is just kind of give you sort of an overview or a weather forecast for July, just so we can kind of get a sense, a bigger picture sense of kind of what's going on right now. So we are still in the environment, as I mentioned before, we're still in the environment of love of self with the current focus on the love of humanity, right? We just took a look at the love of humanity last week. And that's going to last until around August 5th or 6th, depending on where you live, whenever it changes over. So this will continue to be the theme for another month. So throughout the month of July, we still have that theme of love of self and love of humanity. So again, if we take a look at the craziness that's going on in the world, a lot of what that's bringing to light is, you know, how do we love ourselves? How do we love humanity? So just be aware that things will change quite a bit actually when we move into August, the first part of August. At the beginning of August, let's see, the beginning of August will also be the time that we will shift to the theme of bonding as well. So not only are we shifting out of form at the beginning of August, not only that, but we're shifting into the theme of bonding. So basically taking a look at connection, relationships, how to bond and connect with others. And that starts with trait 7. So it's very interesting when we take a look at August 5th through the 6th, you can see that it's trait 7, quality 1. So that's where we really begin, in a sense, that shift into taking a look at relationships and how we connect, how we bond with each other. And what's also interesting is we talked about the 15 last week, but we're not getting rid of the 15 yet. So the 15 actually moves into our values. So I just thought that that was very interesting. And again, that love of humanity moves into our values at the beginning of August as well. And so you can see that there's going to be a lot of change at the beginning of August. So I think July is going to be a little bit more of the same. So just be aware of that, some continued craziness. And, you know, in August, there's going to be a lot of things that shift. Again, we're shifting from fulfilling purpose through form to fulfilling purpose through bonding and connecting with others. The past and future direction changes, communication changes, values change. There's all kinds of things that are changing and shifting at the beginning of August. Now, during July, communication in June will move from stillness to obstruction, and in July, we'll move back to stillness. So we're kind of, like I said, kind of going back between stillness and obstruction right now as far as communication goes. Around July 22nd, we will move back into obstruction and then continue forward. So by July 27th, communication will be around new beginnings. You know, so I think it's just a kind of an interesting thing to take a look at. For those of you, this is also Mercury in retrograde as well. So just be aware of that. There's a lot of stuff going on. And so again, we're sort of in this sort of a soup of this moving back and forth between stillness and obstruction. So it's very interesting that we're kind of taking a look at both of those today, because it's also the theme of communication for the next month. So I see you giggling, Natalie. I don't know if there's anything that you wanted to add.
Yeah, this is going to be wild, right, guys? So we'll share about obstruction just a little bit, but you know, so, and having this in Mercury retrograde, what Karen just shared, you know, having it in communication going backwards, is actually usually provoking difficulties in communication, so and in systems of communication, etc. So it's kind of like the third line day all the time. So it's just so funny. You have it double, so just be aware of that. No worries. Don't let the, you know, don't get slammed out of the field. It's not necessary. It's just observe.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Just be aware of it. It's very funny. My husband and I had an exchange at breakfast this morning, and then he went and looked at the today's theme, and he was like, "Oh, no wonder." It's like, that's exactly what happened, right? Because it's in communication. Again, it's also going to be in the core essence here, as we go through today. So it's one of the things that when you know that that's what's there, right, you don't have to take it personally. It allows you to kind of go, oh, there it is. There it is. I looked at my email this morning, and there was all kinds of provoking emails and people angry or upset or, frustrated, that type of thing with it. with some things that were going on. So, it's like, oh, there it is. There it is. And so that's what you need to just look at is, oh, there it is. And then you can recognize it, not take it personally, not get connected to it, not get triggered by it. Exactly. Did you want to add anything, Chris or Rob?
I'm just curious, when did the 39 go into communication? Do you know what time?
It's been there. It's been kind of going in and out for a while. I would have to look. I'm not sure.
Oh,
exactly.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it was, just, it's interesting. One of the things I'll say, you said it was going back and forth between the 52, the stillness. I had a couple clients over recently talk about this sense of, and seeing a lot of messages over the last week of slow down, still, like, don't take too much action outside of looking at the conscious core essence, which has been in the 52. I've gotten messages outside of that, and had clients who had sales conversations, and then the person that they were having the sales conversation on put the brakes on, and it was like, suddenly they were like, nope, don't take action. And I said, well, that's just the 52. Hang on, it'll come, they'll come into action next week when it shifts out of it. And so that's what we're seeing. But also to look at that in terms of communication and marketing, as well as looking at this provocation in communication. And really, as you said earlier, Mercury's in retrograde, which is all about communication and watching those heated conversations, because they're going to be more likely to happen.
Yep.
Right now.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, actually, when we're talking about Mercury in retrograde, we are talking about, and that's why when I'm saying it's kind of been going back and forth, that's because it's also connected with that. Yeah, exactly. Anything, Rob, you would like to add?
Definitely on the stillness, Chris, I've in my business, I've been noticing quite a bit of that as well. A lot of what I do as a recruiter is things need to move quickly, right? And then, here I have this great candidate, right? And I was telling Karen in another conversation that the world of recruiting is all about speed, right? We're all trying to get to that one candidate first and then submit them to the company first so that we can claim ownership. And so this week it's just been like, and I know this because like Scott, I look at the themes every morning so that I know what game, what does this football field look like that I'm getting ready to step onto, and so that I don't have to take it personally, so that I don't have to think, oh, am I not doing enough to move things along? Should I have? And there's been a lot of stillness this week. Emails coming back from managers saying, you know what, let's just get together next week with the holiday or that type of commentary. And then, for me on a couple personal decisions, it was actually quite nice, right? To be able to practice that stillness and just be part of the flow, like just ride the wave. And then, allow the proper assessment to come from that, which is the true benefit of stillness. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And speaking of that, let's actually sort of dive into what stillness is all about, and then we'll get to obstruction and provoking. But I wanted to give you, like I said, the sort of this big picture of sort of what to expect. So again, it's going to be an interesting July, and it'll be interesting to see. So just pay attention. I'm really anxious to see kind of now sort of looking ahead and knowing that this big change is in play. I mean, take a look at all the definition, you know, August 5th or 6th, right? It's quite a bit of definition as well. So there's a lot of things shifting and changing then. So just pay attention, just watch, and see what happens. So let's talk about this stillness. So we've started to allude to what this stillness is all about, and this is about keeping still. This is like a mountain, right? The mountain that just, you know, is stillness, and it's focused and it's channeled energy, and it's the temporary. So here's the thing: a temporary and self-imposed inaction for the benefit of assessment. Now, you know, if you're busy doing all of this stuff, it's hard to, you know, sometimes slow down and be able to really assess whatever the situation is, or whatever the opportunity is, or whatever it happens to be. So this stillness, again, it's a temporary self-imposed inaction for the benefit of being able to assess, for assessment. It's concentration, and concentration benefits from stillness and withdrawal. And it's passive rather than active energy. And a specific form of inaction that allows you to sit still and allows you to concentrate is what it is about. You know, so oftentimes we think of that as meditation. So I would love to hear from you, Rob. We were actually just talking about this in our class as well, since this is part of your life work theme as well. If you'd like to share a little bit of how this stillness operates for you.
For sure. I will, you know, just be honest with everybody and just say that this has taken some practice, right? You know, it's one thing to be aware of your traits and your skills and your gifts, and it's another to practice, or at least maybe even not do something and allow them to happen, right? So with this stillness, it's interesting, you know, in the conversation that you and I had, sometimes it feels like I'm in this, because I mean, if you look at my chart, thank you for putting it up, there's tremendous amount of energy there, like a lot. And so I feel like I'm in a Ferrari and it's in fourth or however many gears it is. The top gear, my engine's going, it's going, but I got my foot on the brake, right? Because if I don't, I'm gonna let off and I may crash into something, or give my energy away to something that doesn't bring me joy, or do something that creates more static in my life. So it's now at the phase that I am in my BG5 practice and living my design, it's starting to mature more, and I'm really starting to enjoy the stillness and understand truly that that's where the benefit of assessment comes from. Because like you said, if I'm in this Ferrari and I'm in top gear and I'm just banging around and crashing into stuff like so many express builders do anyway, because we're like, yes, 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 yes. Oh, and yes to you too. We don't sit still, right? We think, I mean, I was conditioned as a kid that stillness was, you know, not good. Everyone else is moving around. You need to be moving around, right? And you know, here I am in my 40s. We'll just say that. You know, learning how to practice stillness and understanding that it is a very, very important component of my life's work. Meaning that if I don't allow this to occur, then I can't allow the rest of the stuff that we see in the chart to unfold, as well as my purpose unfold. So yeah, so, and I thought it was cool that it showed up on my birthday week. It was totally awesome.
Yeah, great example, Rob. And again, you know, what he was just pointing out is, you know, take a look at all the energy that's there, and, you know, that stillness is necessary to really, in a sense, focus on how to use that energy properly. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Rob. Really beautiful. Yeah. And Nina is saying, yes, I relate to that revving up and the brake at the same time. Yeah, exactly. Cool. Anything else that you would like to, and Natalie, you actually have both.
I have the strength.
Yeah.
Twice.
Yes, you do.
And it's my only strength. Yeah, so I knew that today was, popping in my in my design. So yes, I do have the strength. So I know very well this stillness, and it's an active stillness, right? So it's not like a passive doing nothing, whatever. Although I know these moments as well, but this is about the active stillness, to see what you really resonate to, and what my God responds to focus on, right? So having the full strength, this really is a laser focus in stillness, working on something or doing something I love. And when I'm preparing for my classes or doing anything for the BG5 Institute or whatever, this is, this strength. This is my laser focus, just and stilling myself in just doing that. And also, I really cannot do multiple things, right? It's terrible. You cannot interrupt me. You can, but then I'm really put off. And I've also experienced in my life that when I have too many things on my plate, it's terrible because I cannot focus. I cannot concentrate on one thing. And since I am laser focused and dive in deep, I need to still myself for doing that. If there are too many other things, my head goes like, oh, but I also need to do that. And oh, and I should. And oh, is this really the first priority? And oh, and then I don't get anything done, actually. You cannot do a lot of tasks focused. If you're a multi-manager, you do it like, I cannot do that.
Yeah.
That's really not me.
Yeah.
Yes, Rob.
So I just realized something as you were talking. So obviously, you have the other end of this as a strength, right? And who do I come to sometimes when I'm moving too fast and I need to find something and focus? You.
Yeah.
I do. I reach out to her. I'm like, where's the fill in the blank? And she's like, I'll get to you later, because she's focused. And then when she gets back to me, I don't know. I feel she's able to go, it's right here. And then I'm like, oh yeah. And so she gives me that hookup.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Exactly.
You're welcome.
And I don't have either of them. And so just bringing that focus where I can get really scattered, Natalie is so brilliant at that. This is one of the things, if somebody had, this is a format strength, so this is a strength that, that is concentrated, that is focused. So, if for example, in a classroom, you have students that don't focus, put them around someone like Natalie who has this strength, right? And she can help everyone focus. So Natalie truly is the focus of our team, and she's really good at keeping me on track and focused as well. So we appreciate that strength very much.
Yeah. I now know that you do, but it feels sometimes, and with my life work of Provoking, there we go, we'll talk about that next, but sometimes it's literally like this in the meetings, blah, 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 and then I go like, yes, so let's get back, we didn't decide on what to do, right? Or so and and go forward. I like discussing as well, but if we are doing something that needs focusing, right, then I cannot do without, right? Yeah.
Yep, you are brilliant at bringing that focus. Yeah, absolutely. So, so that is the trait of stillness, right? And we can see that stillness is part of that strength of focus, concentration. Now, what we're going to take a look at also today is trait 39, which is obstruction. So it's interesting that there's this stillness that happens, and after stillness, obstruction it can sound really bad, right? Just like what Chris was saying at the very beginning. But we're going to have Natalie explain it a bit more, because in a sense, it's sort of the obstacles, you know, it's provocation, and it's the journey towards spirit. So when we take a look at the 39, this is the value of obstruction in provoking analysis, assessment, and reevaluation. It's provoking that brings out the spirit of emotional awareness into expression. And it's through your emotional expression that you supply a combative fuel that helps tease out the true spirit of what is taking place. So your provoking also reveals whose spirit is correct for you or not. So Natalie, I'd love to hear a little bit more as you kind of explain what this obstruction is all about. And actually, like I said, you know, it can be an obstacle, it can be, you know, you're up against something, but it really is that provoking that teases out the spirit, that brings about emotional awareness, that provokes analysis, assessment, and reevaluation.
Yeah, so I have it in a different quality because my birthday's on Sunday, so I have it in the 5th quality. But the obstruction, it's kind of it is an individual circuitry, so it is creative. So it's finding, you know, the creative ways around it. It actually teases out this, and it's pointing towards the emotional intelligence. And the trait 55 is spirit, actually. So what it does is teasing out the spirit in others, and it's not to bully, huh? And I do not consciously do it, or but I do kind of go like teeny with what I say, just for people to go like, huh? And then, you know, but to wake them up, kind of thing, to wake them up to what they feel, and for me to feel out if I resonate with that, right? Because it's also a way for me to connect with people, since it is in my life work. But the obstruction, it's you know, there's always challenges in life, and sometimes people are a bit asleep, quote unquote. So this is probably what you will see in the world, that there's a lot of teasing out, a lot of provoking, and it's not a bad thing. It's also, you know, waking you up and going like that. I do it with my students, actually. You know, you know, it's I had to learn to, and still sometimes do, to not be too bold, right? I'm also Dutch, so we're very direct. And then having this in my life work, it's if you don't know me, then it can be like, whoa, right? But usually when people get to know me, then, you know, it's also appreciated. And for instance, I had this the first time that I met Linda Brandwijk here in the Netherlands. She shared something on BG5 or whatever, and I was like, well, actually, blah, 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 you know, like boom. And I saw her literally do this, and I was like, oh, Natalie, please. So then I recognize what I see happening, and I kind of, you know, underlie it with, you know, whatever is appropriate. But yeah, it is teasing out the spirit in others.
Yeah.
So I don't know if any of you all know me, recognize this.
I love that in you. You know, it kind of goes along right with the focus. I mean, because again, if we're not focused, it's like, you know, the provoking to get back on track as well. You know, and when I think of obstruction, you know, I kind of think the image that I have in my mind is sort of like this wall or this barrier. And it's kind of like teasing out to find where the weakness is in the barrier, you know, and how can you get through the barrier, or how can you just get around it or avoid it? Or, you know, so it's kind of, the obstruction is some kind of barrier, but this is also, in a sense, the way to figure out the way around the barrier, you know, that what Natalie was saying, sort of that creative sense of, you know, how do you provoke in a way that you can see, in a sense, where the, you know, where the soft spot is, where do people get provoked, right? You may poke around and then you find, aha, here's the weak spot, right? So the obstruction also is kind of, in a sense, finding where the weak spot is that can, you know, it's attached to emotional intelligence on the other side. And so it is provoking the emotion as well. And I love what you said, Natalie. It really is in many respects about waking people up, you know, because a lot of people, you know, a lot of times people are asleep. They're, you know, they're not paying attention. They're, you know, kind of zombies, just kind of walking through life. And then it's like, boom, they hit an obstruction, or an obstruction hits them, which provokes them to look at things in a different way. And I think we're all being provoked to take a look at the world and the way things are run and what's going on. We're all being provoked to take a look at it in a different way.
Yeah, and that's interesting that you said that. What did I want to share here? Anyway, no, I don't remember. Let me go to, there was an interesting post in Facebook from Sonia, and she says trait 39 brings provocative frequency in the voice. People with this trait have a very specific voice. Either you like it or you hate it. And, you know, I don't, yeah, probably it is like this, but it's interesting because the individual circuitry is an acoustic circuitry, and it is about, you know, the voice and provoking it out. I don't look for weaknesses. Oh, that's what I wanted to say. Yeah, so that is my personal experience. And now it's lost again. God. Oh yes, what I provoke out is like if people, a lot of what you say, people are asleep, but it's also, you know, going to my job, getting home, do the dishes, eat dinner, la, la, go to bed, la, la, you know, and they hate their job, or they whatever, right? So this is, for instance, in things that I've worked with my client. Then I would ask a question that kind of goes like, tease out, like, all right, so tell me, you know, and or I will, yeah, I don't know how it goes naturally, but you kind of, yeah, it's really teasing out. It's
yeah, exactly. You know, and the teasing can be, you know, the finding the weakness, kind of, you know, what's going to bug people, what's going to, you know, how, you know, because some things you can tease and they don't bite, but if they tease and it's like, aha, got them.
And Aliana in the Facebook also says, dear Natalie, she has the 52 unconscious. So I asked her, how do you experience this? And could you relate to what Rob was sharing? And she said, I also get lost if there are too many things to do. I have a lot of energy, but I've noticed that I have a specific rhythm and work overload capacity that is comfortable for me. And I feel I can easily handle if I'm pressured too much. Oh my gosh, it's even longer. If I'm pressured by too many activities, task, I get anxious and I lose myself and my normal lifestyle balance. So lately I feel very easy that moment before I reach that point. So I listen to that and I learn to say no. Good job, Aliana. Because it really is. It's so easy to say yes to everything and or give no longer deadlines, which is also a great way to do it. Yes, you really feel it is a pressurized center, right? The or pressurized function, the drive and stamina, and for those that have the 52 defined, to release the pressure is to be able to focus your energy. It's the only way. It's not in doing more activities or whatever, but really be able to focus it to something you love, so or enjoy doing. Yeah, great example. Oh, yeah. And she also has the 55 on the opposite.
Yeah.
So she asked how this work with someone like this. Well, you are here for the spirit and the joy of life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you have the entire strength, you know, it is also very moody. right? So it's recognized as the strength of moodiness or provocation, right? So sometimes you can end up being very moody. It's a very individual strength as well.
Yeah, or not knowing what to be passionate about.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
that just comes in, sometimes it's there and sometimes it's not.
Yeah. And that's also, the thing about these two traits, both 52 and 39, they're both pressurized, right? Because they're both in drive and stamina, right? And then the next trait that we're going to take a look at in 53 next week, right? That's also pressurized. So just be aware for the next 3 weeks, there's going to be this pressure. There may be this pressure to be in the hurry or to get things done or to just, be free of whatever the pressure is. So just be aware of that. Anything, Chris or Rob, that you would like to add?
I'd like to just add that this is where operating correctly as yourself is, I think, really important. So I've worked with people and have people in my life who are really close to me, besides working with Natalie, who has the 39 provocation, having clients who have the 39 and sometimes the 38 alongside it. And then, people close to me who have it. And what I have noticed is that in that there's a difference between, and by the way, right, this is something that you be. It's not, yes, we're kind of saying like you use it, Natalie's using it consciously because this is part of the work that she does. She provoke, it's like, hey, are you really happy? Like, let's look at that. Are you really, that it's appropriate. That's her business. That's her work in the world. It makes sense. People hire her to provoke them, and that's one way to look at it. But you could just walk into the room and provoke people. And that is, and that has nothing to do with you necessarily. It's like, are they correct? And you don't have to clean up the mess. If somebody gets provoked, that's not your mess to clean up, right? But there are also people who, when they're not operating correctly, it's not necessarily that they take joy per se in poking and provoking. It's there is a sense of, it has a heavier frequency. It really doesn't feel good. And because they're not actually understanding that they're coming in, instead of going, poke, they're like, bam, and you go, whoa, okay. And then it's sort of like, well, that's your problem if you don't like it, and it's interesting. This has to do with, again, when we're looking at, there's the energy and the frequency of a trait. And then there's, how are you using it? How are you consciously or unconsciously embodying? What frequency are you embodying? Is it getting in the way of your life? Is it blocking relationships? Is it blocking a connection to spirit, a connection to others? Or is it actually creating more through the tension? And I think that that's one of the things to also be aware of in this coming week, whether you carry trait 20 or 39, or you are with someone who has the trait 39, is, again, don't take it personally. And how can you, how can you allow them to tease out the true nature and the spirit of what's going on, but also recognize, like, if it really feels like it's intense and this, it's like, it doesn't feel good, it's okay to walk away too,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, good point. Linda was saying, the obstruction can have two ways to express. One is that it stops you from seeing your own spirit, and the other is the obstruction that helps you recognize the spirit.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And oftentimes, individuals that have the 39, often have to develop sort of a thick skin, because sometimes they, provoke without meaning to provoke.
Yeah.
And it can be upsetting. It can feel like people are rejecting them, or, or there can feel like there's a wall there. You know, so again, being aware of it, knowing that it's part of your nature, it's also part of your strength. You know, a lot of people have, you know, who have this that I've worked with, have often shut this down because they've, you know, provoked and it's, you know, caused pain or it's caused, you know, upset. And so they try, you know, they sort of tiptoe around trying to not use this trait versus really owning it and being able to use it like Natalie uses it, you know, provoking in the correct way, knowing the correct time.
Yeah.
You know, and if they do provoke, then they also don't take it personally as well.
Right. And then they don't also get mad when they provoke someone else and the other person you know, there's like, I just think that there's a spirit. There is a spirit behind it. And like, are you being sarcastic in provoking, or are you being genuinely curious in provoking? And I think, again, that just, you know, is it unconscious? Is it conscious? I mean, there's just a lot of nuances, but.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah,
you know,
and
it's interesting in moving towards 2027, one of the things that, you know, is awakening, you know, is the spirit, is the 55. It's part of, you know, what we're moving into in 2027. So in many respects, this time period right now that we're in, and this week, you know, specifically since we're focused on the 39, you know, is that, you know, wake up call. You know, it's a wake up call to the love of ourselves, and it's a wake up call to the love of humanity. So again, you know, see it as that, and take a look at where you may be asleep, where you may not be paying attention. Yeah, and when you're operating, Linda was saying, when you're operating incorrectly, the provoking feels bolder or even potentially forced, just to see a reaction. Rather than it being used to transform,
Exactly.
right? So we'll probably see a lot of that this week as well. So, you know, both personally in our lives, but we're also going to see it in the world and in the news, because this is something that's affecting everyone. Yeah. Cool. And it's, you know, it's interesting. I'm just going to take this one step further. If we take a look at the quality that we're moving into, this is disengagement. It's in quality 1. So the elevation is the energy to provoke by refusing to confront obstacles. The determination when confronted by obstacles to withdraw, but only temporarily. And the challenge of that is indecision is also a provocation. Disengagement with an accompanying indecision as to when to re-engage. This is the refusal to confront obstacles without the capacity to know when to engage, right? So if we take a look at the foundation, it's almost the foundation here. If we're taking a look at quality 1, is in a sense almost to avoid the obstacles, right? Avoid the confrontation, avoid that risk. So I find that interesting as well. I was talking with Natalie earlier. There's a couple email exchanges too, where I was supposed to do something, and Natalie said, "Well, I thought you were going to do it." Well, I will do it. So it was almost like the indecision, right, of not doing it, or, you know, refusing to confront obstacles is what I was doing. You know, she was like, "Okay, well, I'm going to do it then." So, yeah.
it was not that. So this is interesting. This is how it feels for you. So it was not in that tone for me, right?
Oh, okay. That's
For
funny.
her, she was just like, "Oh, I got it, no problem." And you're like, "Whoa, geez, okay."
You are right. I'm like, okay, you forgot it. There's too much on your plate. No worries. I'll take care of it. So you were just in your stillness, because this is just hitting now. But this is actually, you know, how it may feel. This is a beautiful example.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And with the provoking, but really you weren't really provoking. You were just saying, "Oh, I'll take it off your plate."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because exactly. So
this is so, if we just look at that example and we recognize that this is in communication, that like this is our invitation, all of us, whether we have it defined or not, because it is active for all of us, that this is a place to be ripe for miscommunication, for misinterpretation, for assumptions, for taking things personally, for projecting, you know, again, whether you have trait 39 defined or not, this is what's going to, this is the energy that we're in. And so this is a beautiful invitation for all of us. And I love that example. You're all like, I just got it. It's no problem. And you're like, whoa. I mean, I so get this on such a deep level. You have no idea. Like it's huge with, you know, somebody in my life who has this. It's intense. And I'm often kind of going, whoa. And they're like, what are you talking about? It's not that big of a deal. And to me, it's like a huge deal. It feels like a huge deal. So this is a great invitation for all of us to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, great. I'm glad you pointed that out, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
Rob, anything that you would like to add?
So yes, thank you. So first of all, I'm very lucky to be in a room with all of you. You're all teachers, and you're all gifted with this ability to keynote and articulate so beautifully. And from each of you, I've gotten a lot. Like, you know, Karen, you were talking about seeing how this plays out in our country this week. It will be interesting to see that, right? The provocation aspect of it. And I like that, you know, I immediately, when I saw obstruction, I was like, I just have this negative connotation, but that's not, you know, doesn't always have to be that way, right? So, and then Chris, I really like how you were talking about, it was the way that you were talking about, you know, if you're really pushing it, if it's something to do rather than be, it's probably not going to land right and it's going to come off wrong. You know, the cool thing about all of these traits, whether it's stillness or obstruction, when practiced correctly, and when we are being correct in ourselves and in our designs, it's like a martial art. It's beautiful, right? And what I found so fascinating about studying all of this is that there is that binary, you know, it's there, and it's just lovely to watch. So, you know, that, and then, you know, Natalie, thank goodness for people like you on this planet who can just be that person to provoke, right? You know, Chris was talking about how people literally hire you for that because that's what they want. And I think that that's fantastic. I think it's neat. And then I was just noticing this. I didn't look before, but my wife has this. So it's very telling.
I hear you, brother. I hear you, brother.
Yes, it is. And she's an advisor. So I'm like, you're kind of bossy. I'm kidding. But anyway.
In a good way, right? In a good way.
Yes. Yes. And, you know, I mean, as a good husband, I went through my training program when we first got married, and I graduated. And I'm kidding. We never discussed the 39 though. So, but I know.
I love it. I love what you brought up, Rob, about the binary, because in Foundation 1 today, that's what we were just covering, the binary of this. And this is a beautiful example of, like, and the martial art is also a beautiful example because, you know, there's power and there's force. There is the obstruction and there is the yielding, and they're all within the same place. It's just which frequency are you applying when, and it's like there's nothing to fix, there's nothing wrong, there's nothing inherently bad or inherently good about any of this. It is truly you know, the beingness of it. And when we are operating correctly, then we are naturally expressing the, you know, the black belt of it versus, you know, the, like, let me just beat you up type of energy that has no skill or, you know, consciousness in it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, great analogy.
Beautifully said, Chris. Yeah, and Linda wrote, when you're operating correctly, the provoking potentially feels challenging, you know, but feels good, right?
It does.
I often use an example of, you know, like this big wall, you know, and how do you get, you know, do you get over the wall, right? Do you like, I'm going to get over the wall no matter what? Or do you like just kind of give up and go, it's not even worth it, right? It's, you know, there's that you know, it can be that challenge that's like, oh, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get over this wall. So yeah, I love that. Thank you, Linda. Yeah, and I thought this was very interesting as well. If we take a look at, again, we always have a celebrity that also has this as their life work theme, and Princess Diana, Diana, Princess of Wales, has this as her conscious core essence. So her life theme was tension, right? Think about, you know, her life and her story.
Yeah.
And your energy must move outward to release tension by provoking talent, leadership, purpose, and spirit in others, the great button pusher. And again, I think, you know, it's just fascinating to see, you know, as we take a look at celebrities, she had, you know, a very challenging life as well, and it ended in a very tragic way. But we can also see, in a sense, what, you know, happened both with the tension, you know, the energy and what she provoked as far as provoking talent and leadership and purpose in others, right? But also, you know, was provoking in, you know, ways that others didn't like, which probably ended up leading to her demise as well. So interesting to see all that. Well,
Yeah.
very cool.
Beautiful
A
example.
really amazing, rich discussion. I think we have a couple other comments. So I just want to, we'll wrap up with our last comments here. But again, if you are new to BG5 and want to find out more, you can find out what the trait of the day is. So again, if you are going, what's going on? And you want to take a look at, that's what I was sharing earlier, that my husband took a look at this and went, oh, that's what's going on. So you can find that on our website. So you can see what's going on under BG5 Live if you go to bg5businessinstitute.com. You can also watch past episodes of our BG5 Live. And of course, we have upcoming classes. Chris just taught her first class of the BG5 Foundation course. We're going to be posting the replay here soon, so we'll let you know when that comes out. And so if you still are inspired or want to join, there's still time to join Chris's class as well. And we have more classes coming up here through the summer and also into the fall as well. So we invite you to join us. All right, well, let's wrap up by taking a look at, first of all, if there's anything in the comments area that any of us would like to read or share. And then what I'd like to do to wrap up is kind of taking a look at what to pay attention to, what to be aware of, any words of wisdom that you would like to share with everyone to wrap up today, but also to take a look, because we are now in provocation, we're now in obstruction, you know, what to take a look at over this next week, because basically throughout this week, this is what we're going to be experiencing this week. So
I like some of the comments. So Linda is saying, I have found that my provoking triggers people, but when they are correct for me, they learn to recognize that this is exactly what they need to dive into. This is a place of learning for them. So that's a beautiful remark. And then Lisa sharing on stillness. I find I feel more tweaked if my stillness gets provoked and it interrupts my focus or takes me away from something versus just being still and needing the provoking to engage my focus and get me moving. She kind of uses both, so I'm not sure which traits you have, Lisa, but beautiful sharings, both of you. Yeah, and for this week, actually, I was just thinking, so seeing what happens in the world, because, you know, I mean, we couldn't have a greater provocative world right now, I think. So, but just see how it triggers your passion, right? To and observe. And not that you have to do anything with it, but does it wake you up? Does it trigger your passion? You know, something in that type of line of area.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Natalie. How about for you, Chris?
Yeah, I would just go back to what I was mentioning before around the communication is, you know, how to not take it personally. Like, let's just maybe make the theme is like, hey, don't take it personally this week. Like, it's really, and I love that, what Linda shared about that distinction of if she provokes someone, then she knows that they're correct for her, as much as the other person might look at Linda and say, you're correct for me. And I think that, again, what's beautiful about this is it takes the judgment out, and it takes the, you know, self-judgment or judgment of other, and simply puts it in, does this fit or not? And so how can we bring that into our world this week as we are navigating the 39 and through July? Thank you for being there all month, 39. That's just awesome. Super excited about that one. But happy summer, everyone. That's what July's
I won't be there the whole time. We'll have some stillness in between.
Oh, good. Okay, good. I can't wait for those. Anyway, so have some fun with it. And yeah, just don't take things personally. That's what I'm doing. We'll see how that goes. I'll let you know.
Love it. Thanks, Chris. How about for you, Rob?
Well, Chris, I thought that was so beautifully put. I will absolutely heed your advice, and I will especially apply it at home.
Me too.
Love it. Love it. Beautiful. Well, thank you, everyone. And again, I just ditto what everyone said. Just really, again, pay attention to also where you are being provoked, right? And what is that provocation awakening in you? Because I think we're having a global wake-up call with all of the stuff that's going on right now. So pay attention to, you know, what you get triggered by, you know, where you go with it, you know, both personally and, you know, and in the world, in the big picture. And the more that we can really connect also, because what's on the other side is spirit. So the more that we can connect with our own spirit, you know, who we really are, trusting our decision-making strategy, the more that we can, you know, stay true to who we are and not get thrown off track, you know, by all the noise and all the nonsense and all the confusion and all the stuff that's going on. So follow your decision-making strategy, stay true to who you are, and, you know, and really get in touch with, in a sense, your own spirit, you know, who you truly are. And really that's what BG5, that's what human design is all about, is really having us be in tune with who we truly are. And as Chris said, you know, no right, no wrong, no good, no bad, right? There's the diversity that's still going on, right? And taking a look at how we can love ourselves, and through that love of ourselves, how we can really love humanity as well. So have a fabulous week, everyone. Next week, we'll be beginning something new. So next week we'll be beginning. So still in pressure, but it's the pressure to begin something new. So it'll be interesting to see what this week holds. And we'll see you all next week. All right, everyone. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.